Have you ever heard a story so unsettling, so cursed, that just hearing it sends a shiver down your spine? There's a poem, a Japanese urban legend, whispered about in hushed tones. It's called Tomino's Hell, and the legend says you must never, ever read it out loud. If you do, tragedy will surely follow. But what happens if someone ignores that warning? What horrors await them on the other side? Tonight, we're not just going to talk about the poem. We're going to follow someone who dared to speak the words. This is the story of what happened to Tomino. Our story begins not with a poem, but with a boy. Tomino wasn't a bad kid, just a lonely one. He found solace in the quiet corners of his school's library, lost in dusty books and forgotten tales. One rainy afternoon, tucked away in an old, leather-bound anthology of obscure poetry, he found it. The characters were stark and unsettling, the title simple, Tomino's Hell. He felt a strange pull, a morbid curiosity. The librarian had always warned him about certain books, but this one called to him. That night, alone in his room, with the rain tapping against his window like skeletal fingers, he made a fateful decision. The warnings faded into the background. Replaced by a reckless urge, he took a deep breath and began to read the poem aloud. Elder sister vomits blood. Younger sister spits fire. Cute Tomino spits the treasured jewels. The words felt strange in his mouth, heavy and wrong. As he spoke, the air in his room grew cold. The light from his lamp seemed to dim, and a low hum vibrated through the floor. He continued, his voice trembling slightly. Tomino fell into hell alone, the hell of utter darkness. And from that hell, not even flowers grow. Suddenly, the floor beneath him gave way, not with a crash of splintering wood, but with a silent, sickening lurch. He wasn't falling through the floorboards of his house. He was plunging into an endless, suffocating blackness. He landed with a soft thud and what felt like damp soil. The air was thick with the smell of iron and decay. This was it, the hell of utter darkness. As his eyes adjusted, he saw faint, flickering lights in the distance, like dying embers. He walked towards them, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The first thing he saw was a figure, hunched and weeping. It was his elder sister, but her face was pale, her eyes vacant, and a stream of thick, dark blood trickled from the corner of her mouth, just as the poem described. She didn't recognize him. She was lost in her own eternal suffering, forever vomiting blood onto the blackened ground. Tomino called out her name, but his voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence. He stumbled away, horrified, only to see another figure silhouetted against a wall of faint flames. His younger sister. Her mouth was open in a silent scream, and instead of words, plumes of acrid, orange fire billowed out, scorching the air. She was the one who spit fire, trapped in a cycle of fiery agony. He tried to reach for her, but an invisible barrier, hot as a furnace, pushed him back. His sisters were here, just as the poem foretold, but they were no longer the sisters he knew. They were just echoes, specters doomed to repeat their torment forever, leaving his sisters to their terrible fates. Tomino journeyed deeper. He came to a vast, gray landscape dotted with what looked like needles. The Needle Mountains. The poem spoke of them. For the needle of the sowing hill, he pricks the fresh hide. He saw countless souls, their bodies torn and bleeding, trying to climb the needle-shot peaks, only to slip and fall, impaled over and over again. The sound was a symphony of despair, a chorus of unending pain. He had to keep moving. He couldn't become one of them. His journey felt endless. He passed through valleys where whips lashed out from the shadows, their barbs tearing at anything that passed. He saw souls being flayed, their skin peeled back in a grotesque display. He remembered the line, lashing and thrashing him. But the lashing is not enough. The imagery from the poem was not metaphor. It was a literal map of this terrifying place. Every line he had read was a landmark in this geography of suffering. The dread was no longer a rising tide. It was a suffocating ocean. He wasn't just an observer. He was a traveler here. He was Tomino. He found himself wandering into a dark forest. The trees were twisted and bare, their branches like skeletal arms reaching for him. From the darkness between the trees, he heard a faint, familiar melody. It was a lullaby his mother used to sing. Hope had dangerous and foolish emotion in this place, flickered in his chest. He followed the sound, pushing through the gnarled branches, calling out for his mother and father. The song grew louder, and he saw them. They were waiting for him in a small clearing. But their faces were cold and emotionless. They looked right through him, into the darkest hell he is. Lead by the sheep of gold, by the nightingale. They weren't there to save him. They were his guides, leading him to his final destination. The sheep of gold, the nightingalidae, were his parents, transformed into grim psychopomps. They led him to the edge of a precipice. Below him lay the eighth and final circle of hell, Avitsi, the hell of no intermission. It was a chaotic swirl of fire, ice, and screaming souls, a place of non-stop, unrelenting agony. This was where cute Tomino, who spat treasured jewels, was meant to end his journey. The weight of his transgression, of reading the poem aloud, crashed down on him. This was his punishment. His parents gestured towards the edge. It was time. He was to join the endless suffering. But as he stood on the precipice, looking down into the ultimate despair, something inside him shifted. The boy who was once just lonely was now a witness to the ultimate horror. He remembered the poem's final lines, questioning who was being dragged through this torment. Was it truly Tomino, or was it the one who read the poem? In that moment of terrifying clarity, he understood. Tomino wasn't just a character in a story. Tomino was a vessel, a role that is passed on to whoever dares to speak the cursed words. It was Tomino now. He turned away from the edge. He refused. He would not descend into Avitsi. He began to run, back the way he came. Back past the forest of his parents, past the Needle Mountains, past his tormented sisters. He ran with a desperation he never knew he possessed. The souls in hell wailed, their hands reaching for him, trying to pull him back down. But he kept running, fueled by a single, defiant thought: I am not Tomino. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs gave out. He ran until the darkness began to thin and the smell of decay was replaced by the scent of rain-soaked earth. And then, he was falling upwards. He burst through the floor of his room, gasping for air, landing hard on the wooden planks. The light from his lamp was steady. The rain was just a gentle patter on the glass. The book lay open on his desk. The page turned to Tomino's hell. It was as if no time had passed at all. But everything had changed. He had changed. He was no longer just a boy who liked to read. He was a survivor. The legend of Tomino's hell is a warning. It's a story about the power of words and the dangers of morbid curiosity. Most who hear it dismiss it as a simple ghost story. But somewhere out there, a boy knows the truth. He knows that some doors, once opened, can never be fully closed. And he carries the chilling knowledge of what lies on the other side, forever haunted by the hell he walked through. So if you ever come across that poem, remember this story. Remember Tomino. And whatever you do, don't read it out loud. Thanks for joining me on this journey into darkness. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more dives into the world's most terrifying legends. Stay safe out there.